Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I am one of your hosts. I'm Daz, and there is Steve over there. First off, I want to promote these two books because they're absolutely boss. First one is by our good friends Kieran Smith and Jeff Goulden. It's The Untouchables, the Anfield Band of Brothers. Please go out and buy this. But we will also be doing a competition in the next couple of weeks with 3 very hard questions to answer, because we're not going to just give this book away. You've got to work for it and earn it. And then our next one is from a local, one of the locals in our official supporters group. Michael McCambridge got together with Neil Atkinson from the Anfield Rap and came up with Red Letters, which is another fantastic book. I'm a third of the way through, and I've already seen some names that kind of have come out of the cobwebs and made me have a good laugh. So go out and get one of these. And again, I've got an extra one that I'm going to put forth for a competition. So look out for the competitions in the next couple of weeks, or at least the next month. All right. Now, I am very privileged to have this man on, because he's gone to so many home matches. I mean, it's unreal, to be honest. But he is the chairman of the official Liverpool supporters Merseyside branch, is Les Lawson. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. How yourselves, lads?
I'm good. Yeah, can't complain. I've got a big fat smile on my face, so yeah, I think we all have.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm gonna just kick off and start from the beginning. You know, when you're a young lad, when was the first time you actually went through those Shankly gates?
Well, the Shankly gates weren't there when I first went. I mean, I started going to the reserves when I was about five or six, and there was people like Ray Clements was playing, Phil Borsma, Ewan McCauley, Roy Evans, Peter Wall, Dave Rylands, Steve Peplow, Doug Livermore, and then later sort of Larry Lloyd started to play, Brian Hall, Alec Lindsay. So I started going to them games with my dad from an early age. And the first time I went to Anfield was against Southampton in sort of 1969 or 1970 to see the first team. And it was when Roger Hunt scored 2 coming on a sub. And then my next game after that was I went to a game against Swansea in the FA Cup when St John come on and scored a sub. So, but I was only sort of, obviously I was only young then, so I had to wait for my dad to sort of take me to the matches, and he would sort of pick and choose, because I was only 5 or 6 or 7 at that time. And then it got to, I went to the games in 72, 73 against Leeds on Easter Monday, and then against Leicester on the Saturday when Liverpool won the league with Shankly's new team for the first time in 72, 73. And then I started to go sort of periodically, you know, when my dad wasn't working of a Saturday, he'd start to take me to some games. And then I used to play football for a team called the Unity Boys Club, which is in Toxteth. And I was playing quite regular. And then at the start of the 76-77 season, we used to have to go to the Unity and then we'd travel down to the games by minibus. So what they'd do is they'd name the team when you were in the boys club. You get changed, they'd then be bussed down to the ground. And on this particular day, I wasn't picked. So I thought, you know something, I'm not going to go and stand on the sidelines and watch. I'm going to go to watch Liverpool. But it was at the time at that stage where, you know, there was a lot of trouble in the 70s, hooliganism. So my mum and dad wouldn't let me go to the match by myself, but they actually thought that I was going to play football. And I actually went to the match. And that was we started my unbeaten run, if you like, was against Norwich, which was the first game of the 76-77 season. It was David Johnson's debut. And Liverpool won the game 1-0. And Stevie Highway scored the goal. And then I just got the bug and started going every week. Obviously, my mum and dad thought I was still going to play for the Unity until one day I'd come in and my mum said to me, "How did you get on today?" I said, "Oh, we won." I didn't know how the Unity had got on like. And she said, "Oh, good. Did you play?" I said, "Yeah." "Did you score?" "No." And then a couple of hours later, she said to me, "You haven't been going, have you?" And I said, "I have." She said, "No, you haven't." I said, "How do I know you haven't been going?" She said, "Because you haven't come in and got right in the bath as you normally would." So I'd let myself down. So then I got sussed out and told them. And because of being going then, sort of without getting into any trouble or getting hurt in any way, they sort of said, "Well, we'd rather know where you are." So I then sort of was going every week without having to ask permission or blag me way or anything. And yet, and obviously seeing some fantastic players during that time, some fantastic teams, and experience some fantastic moments at what I call my second home.
Who was your poster boy?
My first hero was a player called Alan Evans, who was the first £100,000 teenager who we'd signed from Wolves. And the reason he was sort of my first hero was in 1971, which I can't believe is 50 years ago, because it actually seems like yesterday. Liverpool played Everton in the FA Cup semi-final at Old Trafford, and Alan Evans sort of scored the equalising goal and made the winning goal with a cross for Brian Hall to score. And that was the first real big game that when your dad said, this is an FA Cup semi-final, because the FA Cup was the competition then. It was like equivalent to the way people talk about the Champions League now. I mean, Liverpool at that point, Liverpool only ever won the FA Cup once in the history in 1965, and we've been beat by Watford in 1970 when Barry Endine scored, which was the end of the great Shankly team that he built with the likes of the Saint and Sir Roger and Ron Yates and people like that. And as I say, so for Liverpool to get to the semi-final in 71 with the new team that Shanks was building, and don't forget, what people might not know is that at that time, Everton were the reigning champions. So Liverpool were massive underdogs. And, they went 1-0 down with a goal from Alan Ball. And then Kelly had a goal disallowed not long after. We went in 1-0 down and then come out in the second half. And I say Alan Evans and Brian Hall scored and took us to Wembley. And obviously, as a 7-year-old, your team's going to Wembley for as you're really starting to get into football. You know what I mean? It's a massive thing, and you could see the joy on what it meant to me dad. Liverpool going to Wembley again, and then it was all systems go. Then looking forward to the final, and I can just remember the street where I live being done up in, all the houses being done up in red and white. There was a big Liverpool sign put right across the street, and they had to ask, the man who lived opposite, who was an Evertonian, could he tie it to his window, and he reluctantly agreed. But then on the night of the Friday night before the cup final, it mysteriously got cut down. Now we don't know who done it, but we have our suspicions. And then obviously, then my heart was broke by Charlie George on the Saturday, and then obviously then you're really into your football, football. Then you just want to get back to seeing Liverpool win the FA Cup and winning trophies again. And then, as I said before, luckily I was there in 72, 73, to see us win the league for the first time with Shank's new team, and that was fantastic in itself. But a funny story about the game against Leicester on the Saturday that I always remember is that my dad was a fanatic Liverpoolian, and there was a player playing for Leicester called Mike Stringfellow, and he was, no matter when he played against Liverpool, he always seemed to score, and he'd knocked us out at the FA Cup a couple of times in the 60s. And my dad hated this player because he just used to send shivers down his spine. Anyway, when we went to the game against Leicester, which Liverpool needed a draw to win the league, the team's given out over the tannoy, and Stringfellow substitute for Leicester. So my dad was absolutely paranoid about this fella coming on. And then with about Liverpool, obviously the game was 0-0, it finished 0-0. But with about 20 minutes to go, Stringfellow comes on. Well, I thought my dad was going to have a heart attack, not bringing him on. He'll score against us. This will be it now. 8 that gets. And he did score, but it was disallowed for offside. And as I say, my dad just hated Mike Stringfellow. And as I say, to see Liverpool win the league, at that stage, I think I was 9. It was just a dream come true. And then, obviously, a few days later, we then go on to win the UEFA Cup and win our first ever European trophy. And then from my time then going to the game, I've been privileged because I've seen us win, trophy after trophy after trophy. And you realise how privileged you are to have been, following, the best club in the world during this particular era.
Well, I think back then too, there was a lot more kids going to the matches than, like the 70s and 80s. I went first time in 76 and I was only 6. But yeah, with the boys' pen and everything, you see loads of kids back then, not as many now.
Yeah, well, as I say, the big thing back then was that you could actually pay on the day to go in. Mm-hmm. If you got there early enough, you could pay to go in. And there's many a time I sort of paid to go into the boys' pen, and then got through a little gap in the sort of fencing, and got through onto the cop. But yes, I started in the Abbey Road end, boys' pen, cop. I'd even stood when in 1976, which is the season 75, 76. I went to a few games as well, and I always remember the game on Easter Monday, when I got a ticket for the paddock, and David Fairclough scored that magnificent goal against Everton, and that was my first sort of taste of Liverpool winning a derby, and it was an unbelievable goal. And again, David is a player who won Liverpool the league in 1975, 76 when he come into the side, and he scored some vital goals in some vital games, and he's a bit of an unsung hero amongst Liverpool fans. And I actually think David played in the wrong era. If David had played in the modern era, he'd have been classed as an all-time great footballer because of what he could do with the ball. The way he used to take plays. When you've seen Salah's goal that he scored against Manchester City, well, the goal David scored was on the same side of the field as what Salah's was, and it was from a throw-in that he took, put about 5 Everton players on the backside, and then stuck it in the goal in the Abbey Road end. I think there was a run of about 7 or 8 games that had ended 0-0, and that was and I think there was only about 5 minutes to go in that game as well. And if Liverpool hadn't won that game, I think that QPR would have gone on to have won the league. So it was an absolute vital goal, and all those people who went to the game, within that era, will all have a a real soft spot in the heart of Davy Fairclough, and he was the original super sub.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to bring Stan now.
Hey, Les, thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
No worries, mate.
Yeah, and it's always great to hear these stories that you're kind of bridging the generations. And I want to ask you, you were there, starting as a little kid, and then you've seen all the improvements to the stadium over the years. Just wanted to get your thoughts on those kind of the expansion, the bringing back some of the standing areas and things like that. So just wanted to hear your perspectives on everything.
Yeah, I think when you actually look at Liverpool's stadium now, and the man you have to thank and the people you have to thank for everything that Liverpool stands for today is Bill Shankly, Tommy Lawrence, Chris Lawler, Jerry Byrne, Gordon Milne, Jeff Strong, Ron Yates, Willie Stevenson, Ian Callaghan, Roger Hunt, Ian St John, Tommy Smith, Peter Thompson, Bob Paisley, Joe Fagan, Ronnie Moran. Without those people, everything that you see today at Anfield, and all the great players we've seen since that era, and all the success we've achieved are down to those people. Because if Shankly hadn't come and had the vision, to build this bastion of invincibility and bring St John and Ron Yates in to complement the likes of Roger Hunt, who was already there, and then signing, Peter Thompson and bringing, Kelly, Tommy Smith, and Chris Lawler through from the young kids. You know what I mean? We wouldn't have 6 European Cups now. And when you look at the brand new stand, and the Anfield Road stand's going to be built, and there's going to be, safe standing areas, built in now that they're going to be allowed, and rail seating. That's all down to Shanks. Mm-hmm. Without him and those players I've just mentioned, Liverpool Football Club wouldn't be what it is today. We wouldn't be eulogising over the likes of Jurgen Klopp and Mo Salah and Bobby Firmino and Steven Gerrard and Luis Suarez and Fernando Torres and King Kenny, because all those followed, and not only that, but Shanks then broke that team up, and he brought in the likes of Emlyn Hughes, Kevin Keegan, Ray Clements, and Stevie Highway, and the team went just on from strength to strength.
It's very interesting because the last time I was in Liverpool was around 2016. So that still a lot of renovation around the stadium. The stadium was the main stand hadn't been totally completed at that time. And now just the area around the stadium has kind of really been revitalized, and for those that don't get to go to Anfield, kind of take us through some of the changes that you've seen around the grounds.
Well, I mean, there's been lots of change. Obviously, the first change was the building of the upper centenary, as it was called now, and now it's the upper Kenny. So that was the first sort of new stand that was built, and then there was the executive boxes. There's been the Shankly statues there, and we've got the Shankly gates and the Paisley gates. And when I first started going up to Anfield, the players' entrance was in where the main stand is now, and all the players used to go there on a morning to get ready to go to training, and then they used to get on a coach to go down to Melwood, and all the fans used to be able to sort of wait in the car park for them to come in, have a morning, get on the coach to get autographs and pictures, and then what could be there when they got back. And within that, there was the tickets office was in there, and the souvenir shop was like a very small building right in the corner by where the Shankly gates are now on the left-hand side. And it was only really, really small. And it shared itself with what was the Liverpool Development Association. And as I say, and now when you look around the ground now and you see how big the souvenir shop is, you see where the tickets office is and how big the tickets office is now. It was one window in like a little office. and the players' entrance in the press box was just to the side of it. And the way the club is now, and and you look inside, and you've got all the lounges inside the ground with their old corporate events of a Saturday, and people pay decent money to go in those lounges and have a ticket for the match, and all the executive boxes. It's just beyond anything that even Bill Shankly could have foreseen when he sort of laid the foundations that everything that followed.
I want to transition a little bit because being the president of the supporters club here in Austin and just seeing the growth of it the past 8 years, 9 years. You're the chairman, president of the supporters club there on Merseyside. Can you give us a little bit of a just history of that chapter, and then how you got involved, and what I guess I want to see also at the end, how it feels to be part of that chapter, being right there, because for the rest of us out in the rest of the world, this is kind of the closest we get to the connection of the parent club. Yeah,
basically around about the early 1990s, I think around about 1993, Liverpool set up the International Supporters Club, and they wrote out to all people who joined that International Supporters Club, and I think it was around about £8 to join at the time, and they were invited to attend a meeting at Anfield, which was addressed by Brian Hall, and he had a guest speaker in Ron Yates, and at that meeting he put forward the suggestion that they wanted to set up a local branch, and the local branch would hold meetings at Anfield once a month, or however frequent they thought that that they needed to have meetings, and the club would then provide guest speakers where the fans in attendance could get autographs, do a Q&A with the person who was there, and he put that to the people who were in attendance to see if they were in agreement with that, and he wanted that to happen, and everybody in the room said yes. So he said, what I'll do now, he said, I've got somebody in mind who I want to be chairman, which was a guy called Alan Brown, who was friends with Roy Evans' best mate, and he was well known to all the players and good friends with all the players, especially the lads from the 60s. And he was installed as chairman, and they asked for they asked for a secretary and people to write in to be secretary. And a guy called Barry Holmes, who's a good friend of mine now, he wrote in and was appointed secretary by the club. And then we had a second meeting, and at that second meeting, which was again at Anfield, he asked for volunteers to join the committee, and I got pushed up by some friends we were with to join. So that's how I became on the committee in 1993. And subsequently then we started to hold our meetings, which was at Anfield. All the meetings were at Anfield, and were held on the first Monday of every month. And we used to get players and managers and coaches and former players to come down as guest speakers and be do Q&As, as I said before. During the time that in the early stages that we were sort of being set up, was around the time where the COP was turning from a terrace into a seating area, and the club wanted a working party to help them sort of do the transition, if you like. Because I was a COP season ticket holder, there was myself and Peter Millay, who was also a COP season ticket holder, who was on our committee, and a couple of local people from the Football Supporters Association, one of whom was Colin Moneypenny. And we met on a regular basis with Peter Robinson. And one of the things that we talked the club into, we didn't really have to talk to them because they didn't really understand, was that when the COP closed and wasn't going to be ready for the start of the season, what the club thought would happen would be, as soon as a few seats started to appear in the COP, all COP season ticket holders would then want to apply for those particular seats. and sort of they thought, well, are we going to do that? And we said, no, that's not going to happen. The only time people want to go back in the Kop as a whole will be when the Kop is ready, because they'll want to sit in with the mates. Mm-hmm. And the other idea they had was the old season ticket books used to have. They used to have vouchers inside, and they all used to be numbered, right? There used to be 42 league games, and your league game tickets would go in order from game 1 to game 21. And then your extra stuff would be used for the likes of cup games and cup finals, etc., etc. And what the club's idea was that they actually wanted Kop season ticket holders to go down to the club in the week before or a couple of weeks prior to the upcoming home game, and in a voucher, and then they would be given a ticket for another area of the ground. And what we said, no, don't want that to happen at all. All people want is to be able to go to the game while the Kop's getting done, be able to sit with the people who they stood with, and know where they're going to be sitting until the Kop's ready. So what we did was everybody was then allocated a season ticket or a seat for that first part of the season until the Kop was ready. And then the other thing we suggested then is that when the Kop is ready, have an open day where people can go down with the mates and be able to decide, where they want to sit, and which could be as close, if you like, to where they used to stand on the old Kop. And the club was so thankful for that, because they never thought of that, and it made their life so much easier. So that's how the transition went from the Kop standing to the Kop seating, and how people were able to get the seats.
So you're telling me, Les, sorry to interrupt. So you're telling me that previous Liverpool owner groups have had PR mistakes?
Yeah. There's
I just wanted to get that out there. So
it wasn't so much a PR mistake, because I don't think it wasn't sort of announced and there was a big furore over it. That's what the Working Party was set up for. Well,
pre-social media though too. So right?
Yeah, it was pre-social media, and obviously it was all sort of correspondence then used to come out from in the local press, the Liverpool Echo, right? But what the club wanted to do, they in a way they were pre-planning, but and this Working Party that was set up so that everything was sort of ironed out before they released it to the press, so everybody knew what was happening. And so that's why they sort of liaised with us as supporters, in able to sort of put the groundwork and the plans in place, so that when they sort of released the plans for, right, the Kop's going to close after the game against Norwich, right, and then for the first part of the following season, it's not going to be open for maybe three or 4 months, or however long it may be. And this is how we're going to allocate, the tickets. And that worked nice and smooth, because everybody got allocated tickets with the friends in certain areas of the ground while they waited for the Kop to open. Then they had the open day. Everybody went down with the mates, picked the seats where they wanted to sit, and then they had the season tickets, and it was nice and smooth. But that was down to the vision, really, of Peter Robinson and Brian Hall, who between them come up with this idea of creating a Working Party. And then that's where, by doing that, they were able to pick the ideas of people who were on the Kop, who had sort of discussed with the friends and us through the supporter club how we envisaged this working, and they implemented those ideas, and luckily it went nice and smoothly, and the transition was perfect.
And then from there, obviously other supporters clubs around Europe are opening up. We had our guest from Norway, they have one of the largest supporters clubs, I guess. But so you kind of see that it taking place on Merseyside, and then being replicated in other parts of the UK at that point.
Yeah, that's right. One of the things that the club did when they when the supporters clubs were first sort of set up, was they had what was known as hostings, and what they used to do was once every round about 4 weeks initially, they used to give us a lounge, either the Champion Suite, the European Suite, or the Bob Paisley or Bill Shankly Suite in the Centenary stand as was then. What they used to do, they used to give so many tickets to the Merseyside branch to allocate to their members. And then they used to then see which branches were coming to that particular game. And then they used to sort of give them tickets as well. So all the branches could interact with each other and have a place to meet. And that worked really well. And again, from time to time, they'd get an ex-player or two who would come into the lounge and speak to people. And we were given, we as the host branch, if you like, why they termed them hostings? Because the club wanted us to be, as a committee, to be responsible for what, for running it, if you see what I mean. So we used to sell programs to people as they come in. We used to do a raffle for like an autograph ball or other prizes that the club would have provided for us. And that sort of helped, get to know people from other branches and get to know, other secretaries, other chairmen, other committee members, and just general members. And it was really good while that happened. And then as the corporate side of things started to increase, and those lounges got sort of sold as corporate tickets, they then give us the wing section of the Kemlyn Road lounge, which is the one, if you walk in, it was the one on the left-hand side. And we used to have that, and we used to, again, get tickets and sell. And that was for every game then. We used to have that little wing section. And then around about towards the end of the 1990s, that again went to corporate and the hosting stopped. So we would then just, the only time you could actually liaise with other branches is if we're going to do an event, maybe on a Friday night before a home game, and we do like a race night for a charity or something. And then we would see which branches were coming. The club would tell us which branches were coming for the game on the Saturday. And then we would then sort of invite, those branches to see if they wanted to come to our hot pot race night, so to speak. And then they would buy tickets. And then everybody would get together on a Friday night for a few hours before a league game. And as I say, but as the corporate thing went bigger, obviously the club could then make more money from the corporate side of things than they could, by just letting, not just our supporters club, we were just there to sort of oversee it, if you like. But they couldn't sort of then justify giving a wing to us when people in the other parts of the Kemlyn Lounge were then paying, vast sums of money for the same facility that we were getting for nothing.
It reminds me of, back in right around 2000, we received an official supporters club membership, certificate from Liverpool. And we thought that was the best thing because there was only like 5 of us watching the games at that time. And, and then you fast forward to 2013 when we got the newer version, right? That after FSG kind of codified the charters and put in some structure on the supporters club worldwide. From being there from so early days, it must be kind of a unique perspective you have of seeing now that there's over 350 official charter clubs now.
I think it's really good that Liverpool are so popular and now a global brand, and there's so many different supporters clubs in different parts of the world. I think it's a thing of pride, because it just shows you how big the club is. And to me, the way I look at it is as a local fan, is that as long as people sort of respect, the traditions of the club and the traditions of the city, right, then they're quite welcome to support Liverpool. And I have no distinction between anybody who supports Liverpool. A red is a red, as long as, in my mind, that respect is there and they understand why, say, for example, there's a dislike of the Tories in Liverpool. Why does the Sun newspaper is boycotted, etc., etc. And as long as sort of those things are sort of respected and understood, then, to me, that's all part of about supporting Liverpool Football Club, not supporting Liverpool Football Club just because, Mo Salah is suddenly, flavour of the month, or before that, somebody supports them because they liked, Fernando Torres or Luis Suarez. If you want to support the club, you support Liverpool Football Club, you support the team, because the team will be there long after these individuals have gone, both players and managers. And that's when, and you're not always going to have, successful times. And that's when your support is tested. We went through the Hicks and Gillette era where, I was called an internet terrorist by Tom Hicks. I was staying back protesting after matches. I was going on marches to get them out, emailing people, when we thought, Hicks was trying to get refinancing. And I never want to go through that again. You know what I mean? That was an horrendous time that, and you had people who were, when we're marching to try and save our club, you had people on the sidelines who were just stood there, in the, in outside pubs with a pint in their hand, and just as though they didn't have a care in the world. And Liverpool Football Club was on the brink of going bust. And these, you think to yourself, why aren't you joining us on the marches? You know what I mean? This football club is sacred. It doesn't belong to me. I've been supporting Liverpool basically since I was born. Me dad, other people's dad and granddads, they've stood on the cop, and you had these two cowboys who come over, and all they wanted to do was rinse the club for all it was worth. And the club was nearly, was dying on its feet, and these people didn't realise. And you had protests after the game, and so many people would get off at the end of the game instead of them all staying there and showing a united front to get these people out and send them a message. And, the likes of Paul Rice and Jay McKenna, and the likes from the Spirit of Shankly, they deserve massive credit for what they did at that time. And again, Liverpool Football Club's, success now is as much down to the likes of the Spirit of Shankly, who sort of was set up, in the, to get Hicks and Gillette out of the club.
Right.
And, as I say, where we are today, with thanks to the people like that, because God knows where we'd have been if Hicks and Gillette hadn't left the club.
Let me segue in there, because you kind of mentioned it a couple of times, with Spirit of Shankly. We've had Joe Blott on a couple of times on our show, and, we feel like we have open conversations with him. Obviously, after the Super League stuff, Spirit of Shankly really was spearheading the fans' perspective on wanting to be more part of the process, right? And so, can you give us your perspective on what's happening that now? Because I know that from the supporters club standpoint, we also felt like, hey, we're official, right? We're recognized by the club, so maybe we should have some say in it as well. Maybe you combine our group, and you included, with the Spirit of Shankly, and having a voice on as part of an advisory board, not non-voting member. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's always a difficult situation where, if basically the Spirit of Shankly are going to be the fans' voice to the club. And to my mind, the Spirit of Shankly speaks to everybody. If you've got an issue, you can go to the Spirit of Shankly. But as I used to say when I used to take on issues on behalf of our members to the club, when we were having direct access with them in the early days of after we got set up, I will always take up a question and an issue with the club, but it might not always get you the answer that you want. Now, for example, supporters clubs who are from outside the local area other than us, right, have probably got a lot of different issues than what we have. And in many ways, we as a local branch feel a little bit isolated from other branches because our issues and what we were set up for by the club are totally different than what a lot of issues that other clubs have from not only in different parts of the world, but different parts of the country. So if you can think about it, the vast majority, I think, of clubs from other areas other than Merseyside, the bigger issues they have are with getting tickets for the games, right? As locals, the vast majority of our members are season ticket holders and have been for a lot of years. So while we understand what their problems are, if we were in a sort of group with the likes of all the other supporters clubs, we would probably feel isolated because the issues that we have are just totally different than what you have, because we were set up to have as I explained before, to have the monthly meetings at Anfield, where we would get guests from the club coming along. And over the past sort of few years, that has dwindled. So the sort of the selling point, if you like, for our branch, we need to try and find another niche for ourselves in terms of where we sit and how we become relevant again. But as far as I'm concerned, the Spirit of Shankly will be fine custodians, for looking after fans and not just local fans. But you have to remember, it's a little bit of a poison chalice because no matter who you are, you're not gonna, please everybody.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Dazza knows that during that time, I got a lot of stick for just not saying certain things or saying certain things. So I kind of was trying to be diplomatic because there's so many perspectives that make up an organization, right? In a normal sense. And so I think people forget that when you get the official status, there's certain behaviors and processes that you have to follow, and so it was very tenuous for me at that time. And and Dazza knows we had personal conversations about it, but I think at the end of the day, it also, for me anyway, I'm so glad it sorted out itself rather quickly,
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing, wasn't it? Nobody wanted the Super League to take place. And I think that where they went wrong again was, if you go back to something I said earlier about about the seating of the Kop, right? If those clubs involved would have got the fans, a group of fans in, and so said, right, this is what we're thinking of. What do you think? The first thing we'd have said was, we don't want it to be a closed shop because the competition has got to be there and qualification has got to be earned. Now, there could be sort of a few sort of, little stars put in there, if you like, provisos that says if you reach a certain criteria within European competition and then you don't qualify to your own league position, then you could get a place anyway. For example, if you've won the European Cup 5 times, and I'm not just saying that because we've done it, but when you think about how long, the European Cup Champions League has been going now and how many teams have actually won it 5 times, there's not that many. And that's why Liverpool have kept the cup, because they won it 5 times. And if you reach that milestone, then maybe there should be a proviso there that if you ever don't qualify through your competition, then you could be given a place anyway, a wild card entry, if you like. But where they went wrong, if they'd have come to us and said, look, this is what we're thinking of doing, and we're thinking because we're fed up with the way UEFA are running the competitions, right, then you might have got more fans on board because they would have come back and said, okay, right, this is what we feel exactly. So if a club gets to a final in Europe, you pick a stadium that is big enough to satisfy the demand of tickets, and each club get a fair allocation of tickets, and not the case now where you get so many tickets going to what is called the UEFA family, in which case they all end up on the black market and can end up with fans not being segregated in the stadium, which can then cause problems. There's also, you've heard rumours about, UEFA thinking about having the semi-finals and final over a week-long period. So it's all held in the one city. And again, the fans aren't taking it. So just look at the fantastic games you've had over 2 legs, over recent years with, Liverpool, Barcelona. There was Borussia Dortmund did it, Tottenham, away at Ajax, and all that magic of those games would be taken away. And the revamp of the Champions League, where they're going away from the current way the group stages. Well, nobody ever asked the fans. Sorry about that. Nobody ever asked the fans who, what they want, how they see the rules going, like the taking away of the away goal. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a really good rule in Europe because it was unique to that competition. Right. And to did they ask the fans whether they liked the away goals rule? No, they didn't. And it's UEFA doing it all the time. It's the same with that happened, the other week. I mean, let's be honest. If you own a car, right, and you've paid big money for a car, and I come along and say to you, can I borrow your car? You can say to me, yes, you can, or no, I can't. But these countries now, they want to take players and stop players paying for the clubs. Like happened to Liverpool the other week, when Fabinho and Alisson couldn't play. No, all right, Liverpool won the game 5-0. But that's not the issue. Mm-hmm. The issue comes where not just Liverpool, the other time, Aston Villa had to miss some of their key players against Chelsea. Mm-hmm. Right. Now, the thing is that those clubs are paid big money for those players. They're paying them big wages. And yet internationals through FIFA are dictating when those players can play for the clubs and when they can't. And, that's all wrong. That has got to stop. And to my mind, again, you all get together and you sort of get round the table and you think, right, how do we stop this? And it's a nice, easy solution for me. You do away with the international breaks during the season, mm-hmm. which then means that the seasons can finish earlier. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of each season, you then sort of host the qualifiers for the next major tournament. Mm-hmm. And then international football has its own inclusive window when they can call on the players without any impingement on the clubs, right? They can have their own exclusive right for football being screened when there's no other football on, so they'll get more people watching it. There'll be more people interested in it. They get more sponsorship, more advertisements, bigger TV deals. And then, so for example, they could have all the seasons over by the first week in May, the finals done by the middle of May, and then they start playing the qualifiers for 4 to 5 weeks, get the qualifiers all done by the end of June. All players then have a minimum of 3 weeks off. They then have a minimum of 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks pre-season, and then all the seasons start at the same time. And then, there's no sort of this sort of crossing your fingers and cringing every time your players go away on internationals that they're going to come back, with a knock and miss an important game or more than one important game because of what's happened on international duty, or you're not going to have FIFA or UEFA saying you can't play these players. Because just imagine if Liverpool would have arranged the game to be played 48 hours before Brazil were due to play. We wouldn't have been allowed to sort of say, oh, sorry, the players can't travel until after our game's being played. FIFA say, no, you've got to release them a certain amount of time before. Mm-hmm. And it's about time, that the club stood up to FIFA and stopped the tail wagging the dog. You know what I mean? And so to say, yeah, we're quite happy for players to play international football, but it can't impinge on us because we're paying them vast amounts of money, and we're paying big fees for them. And if you miss one game, that could be the difference between you winning a trophy, not winning a trophy, qualifying for the Champions League, or not qualifying for Europe. So, this can't be allowed to happen anymore. And if they'd have sat down and sort of tried to say, we're going to form a new governing body, we're going to bypass FIFA and UEFA, you'd have probably got a lot of more people on board, because there's so many people, supporters, who are totally fed up with the way the UEFA handle things. And all of a sudden, when the Super League was formed, it was all, we're all the it's all the football family, we're here for the fans. As soon as it was disbanded, the fans weren't mentioned again.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I appreciate you providing some insight on how into those questions, because obviously FIFA and UEFA and the Premier League and the FA, they're not on the same page, and they'll never will be. There's so much money involved, so hopefully there'll be a solution down the road. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah, Les, you, instead of being president of the Merseyside branch, you need to run for president for UEFA.
I just think it's common sense.
Yeah.
But the problem is, you've got all these individuals, if you like, different organisations, and they all look after themselves, and all they're interested in is the pound signs or the dollar signs or whatever it may be, right? And they don't look at you've got this ludicrous situation at the minute where there's talk about holding a World Cup every 2 years. Now, what's that all about? That's all about making more money, right? And last international break, I watched 3 decent games of international football. I have it on because I love football. I just wish there wasn't international breaks. But then you have meaningless games like Scotland v Gibraltar, or England v the Faroe Islands. Now, what is the point of those games?
No offense to our Scottish fans.
No, no offense, Robbo. But as I say, those smaller teams like the Faroe Islands, Gibraltar, Malta, etc., they should have their own little competition to be able to get into the main qualifying competition, to play against these big teams, and earn something. It can't be any fun for them getting beat sort of 10-0 every so often, every international and that. So international football has to have a relevance, and some of the games aren't relevant because they're just a waste of time. And as I say, that's what they all need to sort out, and get a plan together. So they look after the players, and the players aren't going to get burnt out. There's not this sort of fight between club and country, and everybody can enjoy the football when it's going to be played without it impacting on another side of the football family, as they call it.
Well, you've got the same with AFCON that's coming up.
Exactly.
Some of the best African players in the Premier League are going to have to leave, and again, that's make or break for some of these clubs. I mean, we've got the world's best player, Salah, who's about to go to AFCON, and then you've got talk that right after the Boxing Day match with Leeds, they've got to leave. And then, if they reach the final, they might not be back till after the Leicester match in February. I mean, it blows my mind, like, why you would put, the AFCON right in the middle. But some of these, like the Nations League, it's a joke.
It is.
It's all about money. It's not about the players' welfare, obviously. And I'm glad, more and more players are standing up and going, you're cheating us like we're dirt. You're looking at us like we're, pound signs.
I mean, when you think about it, the players are forgotten in many ways, because the players are in a no-win situation, especially a lot of the, I've got no time for England. I'm Scouse, not English. So, when everybody was going nuts in the summer about England sort of getting to the final of the Euros, it didn't bother me at all. You know what I mean? I was just watching the footy, enjoying the footy, and whoever won. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have been out celebrating that England won on pens. You know what I mean? And I think I think when you think about the AFCON, if you just took, then you know, just imagine if, you know, if Liverpool without Salah, you know, and just say they draw a game or something, and you think if Salah had been there, you know, they'd have won that, or they'd had a better chance of winning that game. And then it comes down to the fact that Liverpool have lost a player to the AFCON, and Chelsea are going to lose the goalkeeper, right? But Manchester City don't lose anybody, and that gives them an advantage. And as you touched on then, you know, the players have got to go, and it comes back to the point I made before. The players have, what we're hearing at the minute is the players have got to go after the games on Boxing Day, which then sort of makes a mockery of what happened when Brazil were allowed to play 48 hours before league games, right? And so, but our players aren't allowed to play for the clubs who pay them vast amounts of money 48 hours before the AFCON starts, or even a week before the AFCON starts, because they've got to go so many days beforehand. So I just hope that it's cancelled for some reason, because the civil war in Cameroon at the minute, and there's a heavy outbreak of COVID there at the minute. So, you know, what the protocols are going to be, I don't know, but I hope it's cancelled. But as you said, you know, why should it be held in the middle of a season that impacts on the clubs and on the players? And the thing is that all major tournaments should be held at the same time, in the same monthly period, and so they start on the same day and finish no later than this particular date. So it doesn't impact on anything. The way they are at the minute, they start 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after, the end 2 weeks after, and it all impinges on pre-season. So when are the players supposed to have a rest? And then you'll be back fresh and ready to start the next season for the clubs, and give, you know, both the global TV audiences and the people who pay to go to watch the games, seeing players play at their ultimate best. Ask your question. It's a good point here. Salah is on fire this season. Why? Didn't have a tournament this summer. He was able to have a rest, and you just see what the benefit is.
Yeah, same with Mane, you know.
Yeah.
Same thing. But before we leave, we've got to ask you, you know, 44 years consecutive home matches.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of hours. I mean, and you know, the horrible pandemic had to kind of ruin it. But do you put an asterisk next to
I couldn't go. So I don't, you know, while I wasn't allowed to go, I can't be accused of missing a game.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because I wasn't allowed in. So it only starts up again, really, from the start of this season, when everything was lifted again, and you could then sort of go back as football was, if you see what I mean. You know, while I couldn't go, it was, I mean, you know, there is a sort of, you know, when Liverpool was sort of won the league, and they won it the best way they could, really, in terms of, because we were in COVID time, to win it the way it was won when Manchester City lost to Chelsea. The way the fans celebrated up at Anfield after that game, and I was one of them, right, who went up there, then that was how it would have been had there not been COVID, because everybody would have gone up there anyway. The only difference would have been, you know, town would have been buzzing and everything like that, but everybody would have amalgamated to Anfield anyway, and it would have been just the same as it was. It was the trophy presentation that was the one, and there was rumours going round that, you know, they might try and get different people to go in, depending. And I sort of said that, you know, even if I got invited to go, I wouldn't go, because it wouldn't be the same. Because I wouldn't be there with me lad. I wouldn't be there with all my mates who have sat with on the cup, you know, for the past sort of, you know, 30 odd years. And so, you know, it just wouldn't have been the same. So, you know, I'm just really hoping that, you know, the team can carry on the good form that they've shown so far this season, and, you know, get number 20 over the line for us this year. And when we're all in the ground to celebrate it together, you know, and, you know, that'd be last year, for example, it was fantastic to see, for Liverpool to qualify for the Champions League after all the injury problems we had. And, that Alisson header will be a memory that I think every Liverpool fan, even though there was none in the ground, will cherish forever. John Toshak would have been proud of that header. And that's how good the header was. It wasn't a fluke. It was a proper header that John Toshak would have been proud of. And as I say, my sort of run finished at Atletico Madrid, when the last game before COVID, and started again on the first home game this season.
So I'll keep it going.
And touch wood.
So out of those 44 years then, favourite match? That's a lot of matches.
I've been very fortunate where I've seen so many memorable moments at Anfield. St Etienne, 77, the Chelsea game in 2005, which, I was with my lad, when he was only 11. And then the one that has to be the cherry of them all is Barcelona, because I think with that Barcelona game, I think you look back and Manchester City had won the night before against Leicester with that goal from Vincent Kompany, right? And I'd gone to bed, turned my phone off, didn't watch the match, I was watching a film because I just couldn't. It was just like the only thing I can remember it, and this is a strange analogy really, but Liverpool v Manchester City in that title run in that season was like watching the Borg v McEnroe tiebreaker at Wimbledon, for those who remember it in the early 1980s, which is, if you've never watched it, just watch it, where you thought one player was going to win and then the other would just sort of come back with another amazing shot, and you thought this will be the time where City will drop a point, and they didn't. They get over the line, and then City thought, well, here we go now, we've won, Liverpool are playing after us. And it was just like toe-to-toe, two boxers, if you like, just knocking 10 lumps out of each other and not going to the ground. And then, so on the Monday, I knew they would beat Brighton. So it was Brendan Rodgers and Leicester who were going to, if we had any hope, it was them who was going to take anything off City. And then I just turned my phone on at about just before 10 o'clock, and I thought, if City have dropped anything here, then my phone would be non-stop, and there was nothing. So I knew they'd won, but then to find out how they'd won, it was heartbreaking. And then we're 3-0 down to Barca, and you're thinking, after this fantastic season we've had, we're going to end up with nothing. We're without Salah and Firmino for the game against Barca, who've got Messi and Suarez and Coutinho playing for them, as well as Busquets and Piqué and the rest of them. And you think, while you think we could possibly score 3, you didn't think Barca wouldn't score. And then to experience that night, and one of the greatest things I've ever seen in all my time watching Liverpool was at the end of that game, where the players and the coaching staff and some of the other staff were stood in front of the Kop singing "You'll Never Walk Alone," and to look around people who I've sat with and near on the Kop for years, and see grown men, with me included, by the way, crying as we're singing "You'll Never Walk Alone," because of all the emotion that you'd sort of experienced, trying to win the league for the first time. And, that will live with me forever. And that, and I won't say it'll never be passed, because I've said that before, but if you had to pass me on one, that is the one, for everything that went with it.
Yeah, I think everyone cried that day.
Yeah.
Including me.
Yeah.
Well, that, I'll tell the story till I'm old in the face. That's I was down the pub, and that's the day I was coming back home as well. So it was pretty emotional for me, and plus I nearly missed my flight as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, that'd be something if you missed your flight sort of back home after that one. But I bet there was a lot of people who sort of didn't get home on the on the time or the day they were expected to, because I think nobody expected sort of, to be celebrating that night, if we're brutally honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just can't wait till, hoping we win the league and then everybody can just, explode and let it all out.
I mean,
we never had the party, did we?
I was just going to say, even the tour around the city, we couldn't have that, where there was, I think that would have even outdone the one the year before when they come back from Madrid, because there were so many people from other parts of the country and other parts of the world. They were asking, when did we think it would be? Mm-hmm. So they could book hotel rooms to make sure they were there for it. Right. I think it would have been just something else. But once the moment had gone, there was no point in trying to sort of say, okay, we'll do it now, because football is a game of emotion and you live it for the moment. And once that, it's just like, with all these allegations that, with Manchester City, if they'd have been stripped of the league title and then Liverpool had been given the title of, from 13-14, and you'd have had Brendan Rodgers at Anfield with, it wouldn't have been the same as it was then, because the moment's gone. You know what I mean? Football is all about moments and being with your mates in the moment that you either win a European Cup or you win a league title or somebody scores an amazing winning goal. And that's what football is all about. And that emotion lasts for so long afterwards. But then once that period's gone, then that chapter's closed and you're looking forward to writing another one. So, while they were saying, we're still open to have a parade, once I think a certain amount of time had gone past, then, that chapter had gone.
Yeah, it's time to write a new chapter.
Yeah, that's it.
But Les, really appreciate you coming on. It's been great listening to your stories and stuff, and great, finally meeting face to face. Even though it's Zoom, but Zoom's better than nothing these days.
It is. As I say, it's kept. Zoom's kept a lot of people sort of sane during. The COVID lockdowns, where, us ourselves, we had to stop our meetings. So we were able to do some meetings on Zoom, and we got the likes of Graham Souness, Jamie Redknapp, Robbie Fowler, Emil Heskey, Jason McAteer on to our Zoom meetings. So, that was all good for us and give our members, something to look forward to, if you like.
All right, stop bragging.
So, it was, as I say, Zoom has been, fantastic over the past sort of 18 months or so.
One thing I will leave you with, what I love about your Facebook group, if you try and send you a message, it always says, look, we can't get you tickets.
Yeah, well, that's because a lot of people think, because we're the local branch, that we can sort them out with tickets. And we just used to get so many emails and messages saying, oh, me son's 10 this week, he's never been to a game. And it's not that we don't understand, we do. But then we're having to reply to everyone to say, we haven't got any access to tickets, just get in. So if we put that message there, people can see before they ask us, we can't get tickets from you, so there's no point in us asking the question. So we did that to stop us, our inboxes being full. And Katie having to sort of, as our secretary, having to sort of answer them all, saying, sorry, you're quite welcome to join, but we don't get tickets.
Just put a photo of the ticket booth.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's where you get tickets from.
Apply here, yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure, mate. Really enjoyed our chat, and again, we're looking at an amazing squad. Like we're in a time where I look at this team every single time and going, just wow, we're living in an amazing time where we get to see Klopp and this team.
Yeah, and for a lot of sort of younger supporters, cherish Klopp while you can, because I can remember the day when Bill Shankly resigned, and it's one, I was 11 years old, and it's one of the darkest days I can remember. And I can remember the day Kenny resigned when I was in work, and that was a dark day. And cherish Klopp. Just think of how lucky you are to have him. Cherish the players that are here now, because they won't be here forever, because age catches up with everybody. You know, and as I say, we've lost over the last sort of year a lot of great players, legends, managers, you know, and, you know, Jerry Marsden included. And I was at Roger Hunt's funeral, you know, the other week. And as I say, just cherish these people. Forget about players who don't play for us and moaning about transfers. Just enjoy the players that are here. We've got a fantastic team and a better squad. And if you look at Man United, they've spent 100 million quid plus this summer. And is it doing them any good at the moment? Well, you know, time will tell how that all works out. But, you know, it's better sometimes to trust the players, you know. And Liverpool have got some fantastic young players coming through the system. You know, the likes of Balaguese, Tyler Morton, you know, and there's a centre-back they got from Spain called Bajetics, who can also play in midfield. He's a very good player, right? So trust the process that Liverpool have got. You don't have to go out and spend £100 million on players to be successful. You know, you can do it in other ways. It's down to good scouting, good recruitment, good management, and good tactics. And you get, and most of all, a team. There's no iron team. Mm-hmm. So you've got a good team who'll play for each other. That's worth more than anything.
That's right. Well, Les, we appreciate all your perspective, man. And I know we'll keep in touch as we move forward through the season, and hopefully
thanks when we get back over there.
That's right.
All right, mate. Yeah. And as I say, anytime if you ever need me to come on again, just send me a message. You know, I'll be happy to do so for you.
Perfect.
Yeah. And we won't ask for tickets.
No, don't ask for tickets.
Okay.
All
right, mate. Appreciate it.
All right. See you later, lads. Thanks very much. And let's hope we enjoyed the rest of the season. We're smiling at the end with a couple of trophies.
Definitely.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.